one verse from Surah Al-Hijr and then a couple of verses from Surah Bani Israel, inshallah. As we know, in the beginning of Islam, when some of the Sahaba accepted Islam, and especially those that were on the lower rung of society in terms of their status, the majority of them slaves, many had to go through a lot of torture and difficulty at the hands of their masters. And one of them was Ammar ibn Yasir, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Others were Khabbab ibn al-Arat, Bilal ibn Rabah, Suhaib al-Rumi, etc., etc. They had to go through so many difficulties. It's said about Khabbab ibn al-Arat, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, that once he raised the back of his shirt to show Umar ibn al-Khattab, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, his back. And the after effects of the torture, many, many years later, were still there. The scars and everything was still there on his back. So in any case, Ammar ibn Yasir one day was being tortured by his masters, and they told him to leave Islam. And because of the sheer difficulty that he was going through, he uttered some words which indicated that he had left Islam. So the news spread amongst the Sahaba that Ammar ibn Yasir has become an apostate, and the news came to the Prophet ﷺ, who then got the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is in Surah An-Nahl, sorry I said Hijr, Surah An-Nahl, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Man kafara billahi min ba'di imanihi illa man ukriha wa qalbuhu mutma'innun bil iman." It is connected to the previous verse, but our focus is on this particular verse. Whoever disobeys in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after his iman, except that person who has been forced. Illa man ukriha, the person who is being forced, wa qalbuhu mutma'innun bil iman, while his heart is mutma'in. His heart is at ease with iman. So, on the face of it, to save his life, he said something, but internally he is truly a believer. There's no doubt in the veracity of his faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He did it to only save his life, and that is permissible in Islam. So there are many scenarios, especially with the negativity surrounding Islam nowadays. If you have somebody, for example, pull the gun on you and tells you to leave Islam or denounce Islam or become an apostate, then in that situation it is perfectly permissible for a person to do that, because life itself is also sacred. One's life is also sacred, and Islam is not about something that you're not capable of doing. Okay, it's no compulsion upon you to lose your life for the sake of somebody's vendetta against you. So this verse, it tells us the permissibility of doing that, and this is something that we need to keep in mind. There's no sin when a person does that. The next verse I want to talk about, it is related to a story which happened with Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And as we know, Umar was a very powerful man, a very strong man, and he was a person that everybody was afraid of in terms of his awe, his presence, his power, his might. One day, somebody said some bad words to him, and maybe insulted him, swore at him, cursed him. So he was the type of person that he could have taken revenge immediately. But instead what he did, he went to the Prophet ﷺ and asked him what he should do in that situation. Verses were revealed to answer his question. وَقُلْ لِعِبَادِي يَقُولُ الَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. Tell my worshippers, tell my slaves, that they should say things that are the best. إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ يَنْزَغُ بَيْنَهُمْ. The shaitan, he puts disputes between them, he makes differences between them. إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ كَانَ لِلْإِنسَانِ عَدُوًّا مُبِينًا. Indeed, the shaitan is for the human being an open and a clear enemy. So this is something that we really need to take to heart. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's telling us that whenever we respond to any kind of insult, any kind of criticism, any kind of argument that is made against us, it should be done in a way that is good, without hurting the person's feelings and without making the argument even bigger. So what happens usually is that somebody curses you and you turn and respond back with a bigger curse, and it goes round in a circle, and then it becomes bigger and bigger. Families get involved, or gangs get involved, parties become formed, and now that dispute carries on for days and weeks and months, on the basis of what? On the basis of the fact that somebody cursed you and you couldn't control your tongue in responding back to him, and it became a huge issue. And the same thing applies actually in married life. Okay? In many cases, the husband says something to the wife, and she becomes upset and she responds back with something more severe. Or the wife says something to the husband and the husband responds back with something severe, sometimes to the degree of even saying words of divorce. Na'udhu billah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us that the slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should always be careful of how he uses his mouth, his tongue. And there are many, many hadith which talk about the dangers of using your tongue loosely and not being careful with the tongue. It is one of those things that takes a person into Jahannam. A good word can take a person into Jannah, and a bad word can take a person into Jahannam. This is how dangerous the tongue is. And then there is something that we need to always keep in mind: the way to be diplomatic in getting our point across in a polite and respectful way, without hurting the other person's feeling and without showing disrespect to the person. Okay, this is an art that many of us have not mastered yet. It is something that we need to know, and this is diplomacy, leadership. All of these skills basically come into this thing of telling a person, getting your point across in a way that doesn't hurt the person's feelings and the person doesn't feel disrespected. You could disrespect him and get your point across, and he's hurt and he bears a grudge against you, or you could say to him in a respectful way where he doesn't feel hurt and he doesn't bear a grudge against you, keeping the hearts united. So this is what we derive from this particular verse. There are many situations that we have where prophets ﷺ, like Isa ﷺ, were worshipped by people. And this is not something that Isa ﷺ wanted people to do. In fact, at the end of Surah Al-Ma'idah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shares a conversation that will take place between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Isa ﷺ on the Day of Judgment. وَإِذْ قَالَ اللَّهُ يَا عِيسَى ابْنَ مَرْيَمَ أَأَنْتَ قُلْتَ لِلنَّاسِ اتَّخِذُونِي وَأُمِّيَ إِلَهَيْنِ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to ask Isa alayhi salam, did you tell the people to take you and your mother as gods other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Isa alayhi salatu wasalam will say, قَالَ سُبْحَانَكَ, you are pure from this. مَا يَكُونُ لِي أَنْ أَقُولَ مَا لَيْسَ لِي بِحَقٍّ. I would not ever say something that I don't have the right to say. Okay, so Isa alayhi salam never told people to worship him, but people still continue to worship him. And then different entities, we have the same problem amongst some sects of Islam where they worship saints or pious people. Those pious people didn't tell the followers to worship them, but the reality is that people fall prey to the tricks of the shaitan. So what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say about that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, قُلْ, tell them, O Prophet of Allah, أُدْعُوا الَّذِينَ زَعَمْتُم مِّن دُونِهِ, call those that you think are gods other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَلَا يَمْلِكُونَ كَشْفَ الضُّرِّ عَنْكُمْ وَلَا تَحْوِيلًا. They do not have the ability to remove any harm from you, or to take away any harm from you, or to turn it away from you. But on top of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says something else. أولئك الذين يدعون يبتغون إلى ربهم الوسيلة أيهم أقرب ويرجون رحمته ويخافون عذابه إِنَّ عَذَابَ رَبِّكَ كَانَ مَحْذُورًا. Those same prophets that you worship, those same saints that you worship, they themselves, what do they want? They are seeking a wasila to their Lord. They want to seek a wasila or a connection to their Lord, and they are competing أَيُّهُمْ أَقْرَبُ, to see which of them can get close. They themselves يَرْجُونَ رَحْمَتَهُ, they are in hope of His mercy, وَيَخَافُونَ عَذَابَهُ, and they are fearful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's punishment. See, so if they themselves are afraid of His punishment, if they themselves are hoping for His mercy, then how is it that we can worship these Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam or these saints? We really need to just focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone and nobody else. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself is the one that we need to worship and nobody other than Him. Islam is a religion which is completely balanced in every single way, including when we spend in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is something that we also need to show a balance in. Some people, when it comes to spending for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are completely stingy. And then there are some that go out of their way and even harm their own interest in terms of their savings or their family's needs or their own needs to spend for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this took place many times during the times of the Sahaba and even the Prophet ﷺ. There were instances where a person came to him and he asked him for the sheet that was on his back, and the Prophet ﷺ didn't have anything else, but he just gave him the sheet that was on his back. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He revealed verses which told us that we have to be balanced whenever we are spending for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should not go to either extreme. And this is again, Islam is not a religion of extremes. It is a balanced, it is a middle religion in every aspect. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَجْعَلْ يَدَكَ مَغْلُولَةً إِلَىٰ عُنُقِكَ. Don't put your hand tied to your neck. This is a phrase which is used in Arabic to show a stingy person. Meaning when a person's hands are tied or chained to his neck, he cannot take his hands out and put them in his pockets, right? To take the money out. So don't make your hands tied to your neck, meaning don't be stingy. And also, وَلَا تَبْسُطْهَا كُلَّ الْبَسْطِ. And don't just spread your hands out completely, meaning that you just spend everything so much so that there's nothing left for your family. فَتَقْعُدَ مَلُومًا مَحْسُورًا. And if you do that, what's going to happen? You're going to be sitting in the state of blame and upset, despondent at yourself. Okay, who's going to provide for my family now? I gave my money away. Who's going to put food on my table now? Okay, I have to ask for charity for myself because I went out of my way to spend. So this is something of a balance that we need to try to achieve. Obviously, most of us are not to that extreme. We don't go to that level, but the other extreme at least we should try to avoid, which is being stingy, right? Inshallah, we should try to spend as much as we can. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give barakah in the rest, and we will see the barakah of that when we spend, inshallah, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With that, we finish. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us tawfiq to understand and practice what has been said and heard. Okay, janazah today, inshallah. Oh, as you heard last night, Brother Munir's father passed away. We have a janazah today, Salatul Dhuhr, and after that, the burial is going to be in Denton Cemetery, inshallah.